Alright, so it's recap time again, and trust me family, I have a lot more recaps coming for. So you can just sit down, buckle up, and just prepare for them for drop. Now, this episode right here is one that we are far too familiar with. You know, we've heard and know of so many situations similar to this one. This young lady spoke about how she was molested by her stepfather. It started from a very tender age and continued on and on and on for years. And her mother just did not protect her in the way that a mother should. It affected her mentally. It caused her to fall back on her schoolwork and also affected her life on a whole. Family, take a listen to this extremely sad one that was shared on Unstoppable Live.
My mum met and got married to a man who I later called my stepfather when I was about 4. Um, I have vivid remembrance of him, coming around to visit my mum, and I liked him. It had just been me and my mum, all this while, because my own father, he left my mum when I was just a baby. So, well, before I was even born. So, it was just me and her. Um, anyway, my mum used to do a lot of shift work, night shifts, day shifts, different types of jobs, and she started off working in factories, and then she got a job in a hospital where she worked as an auxiliary nurse. Um, I remember one Sunday afternoon, it, me and my mum had gone to church, come back. My mum usually after, because her last shift of the week was like on a Sunday morning. So she'd like, as soon as she come back from church, she'd just want to, have a little something to eat, and she'd go to sleep, and then she'd want to go to evening service in the evening. So it was just me and my stepdad, and I sat on his lap, and we were in my bedroom. My mum was asleep in her bedroom, and we were in my bedroom, and there was like a chair. I had a chair in my room, and I sat on his lap, and we were just like, I can't remember whether we were watching television or what was happening, but he kissed me on the mouth, and I knew it was, I kind of felt that it was inappropriate, because it wasn't like, it wasn't just, it just didn't feel normal. And then basically, things kind of started to happen more regularly. My mum would be at work. Sometime how I remember it was like, as soon as she like before she got married, I used to stay at her friend's house with her friends' kids a lot. But then when she got married, I'd be at home a lot when she was gone to work with my stepdad. And as a child, I was always scared of the dark and scared of sleeping by myself. So even when my mum wasn't at work, when my mum was at home, I remember sleeping in the bed with my mum next to my mum, because I was scared. Um, because otherwise I'd have to sleep with the light on. Anyway, my mum would go to work, and she would say, "You can stay in my bed if you get scared." Okay, so it started off like one night I went into the bedroom to go to sleep, because I was really overtired, but I was still like kind of anxious of the dark and scared. Um anyway, was in the bedroom and in the bed with my stepfather, and I could feel like um like his hand moved towards my hand, towards his private parts, and then I remember the bed just went wet, and I thought, oh, he'd wet himself, because I was like just a child, so I didn't know, you know about men ejaculating. So that's what I thought had happened. um anyway, I was disturbed by it, and it seemed like for quite some time I didn't say anything to anybody. because one part of me was thinking maybe this is normal, maybe this is, just what happens. um it started to affect me a lot at school, because I remember at nursery school, when I was like, I don't know, but although I say that this happened when I was 6 years old, I think that things happened before then, because like I remember being at nursery school, and I just like remember how I couldn't seem to just like fit in. I just like sometimes I'd be just quiet, just wouldn't want to play with anyone. And then there were other times when children would want to play with me, and I would be quite, not aggressive, but a bit spiteful and push them away. Um anyway, um going back to what was happening, it was happening quite regularly. um the inappropriate kissing, um and my stepfather, pleasuring himself in the bed next to me. um and I was so scared. I was scared that if I told my mum, she wouldn't believe me, or I was scared if I told someone. I don't know, I was just scared. um as time went on, I got to an age where I think I must have been about maybe 7 or 8. And I kind of, I just it couldn't I couldn't get it off my mind. I thought, no, this is not right. This is just not right. I need to say something. So the first person I told was my mum, and she said, "Are you sure? You sure you that's what happened? You sure it's not you, just you thinking that, you're sure?" She was like really like couldn't believe that what I was saying was true. So I said, "Yes, mum, I'm sure." So I remember her confronting him in front of me, and he denied it. He said it didn't happen, and nothing was said about it after that. Nothing at all. Um, I just remember, um, as I was getting older, um, I just kind of like felt like, you know, I just kind of like almost felt like a freak, because it was still continuing, even though I'd been to my mum about it. I thought, it's gonna stop now. I was even thinking, she'll tell him to leave and everything will be all right. But that didn't happen. Anyway, it continued to happen over a number of years. It stopped probably when I was about age maybe 9 or 10. I remember one instance where I come out of the bathroom with just a towel around me, and my mum said, "Where go, you want me husband, you want me man or something?" And I thought, when I look back at it now as an adult, and I remember going over it to her as an adult later on, I thought, like, why would she say that? Um, but I realized as I was getting older, it was affecting me more and more. It was affecting me to the point where I was getting into trouble at school a lot. My mum was always having to come up to the school about my behavior. Um, just doing things like out of the way, like I'd steal money from my mum's purse, go to school and, play fruit machines at secondary school and get into trouble with boys and things like that. And there was this one incident that I remember very, very clearly. Um, I was about 13 or 14, and my stepfather went to like step to me in a kind of way which I just didn't feel comfortable. I was upstairs in my room ironing out clothes to go to school for the next day, and he accused me that I was gonna go out. Um and I remember getting such a beating with the belt. Um I've, tried to run away from him, shut the bathroom door. I ran up the stairs and into the bathroom, and, he caught up with me and he beat me really bad. I had whelps all over my legs. The next day, I said to mum when she came back from work, look, look what my stepdad's done. He'd already gone to work. And, yeah, and, yeah, I was just like, I was really upset at this point. Um, my mum was really, really angry with him. She said, why you beat my picnic for? Why did you do that? She was just getting her clothes sorted. You can see the clothes ironed on the thing. So his clothes she's ironing for school. Why did you beat her? Um, I realized that my stepfather was starting to build up a hatred for me, and like he would like say things to my mum that I did, like I was going out, or tell her that I'd given trouble when I didn't. And it's almost as though my presence in the household was like not welcome. But my mum loved me and she idolized me so much because I was an only child, so she like really invested everything into me as far as love and everything else was concerned. Um, anyway, as I got older, you know, um, I began having boyfriends at quite a young age, actually. Probably maybe 13 was when I first had my first like sexual encounter. Um, but I was just like, I don't know, I was just like, my head was all over the place because like it's like I was living like a nightmare basically, because like as I said, I was expecting that when I told my mum previously about what the things that had happened to me, she would, make it go away. And I remember I said that I used to go and stay with her friends at time with one of her friends at times when my mum was gone to work. And I remember telling um the girls what was happening, and they said, I have to tell auntie. So I said, yeah. So we told my auntie, and my auntie told my mum, and my mum was like, she just like disbelief. She said, Min, I can't believe that you're telling me this. I can't believe you're telling me this. Um, anyway, um, as I was saying, like, this is hard.
It is fine. You could take a break if you wish to. I totally
No, no, no,
understand.
no, it's fine. So yeah, as I was saying, so yeah, um, it stopped. The abuse stopped. Or it went on from like, I think, as I said, I believe that it started before I was 6. It's just that my memories, of quite kind of like quite vivid
Hmm.
about before I was 6. I remember from 6 going on, but I don't remember very much before that. So as I was saying, um I started getting into um be going with boys and things like that. And at 9, I think I was about maybe 18. I just like I just had enough of being, in the house. I remember when I was probably about 14 or 15, I ran away from home. This one night, I just ran away from home. I had an argument with my stepdad. My mum had gone to work. Like I said, she worked night shifts, and yeah, she went to work, and we had a heated argument, and I just packed a bag and just left. And I remember going to, like every country has a ghetto area. In every city there's an area which is like quite rough, prostitution, drugs, that kind of thing. Anyway, I ran away and I went to this like what you'd call like maybe like a squat. People, was an unoccupied house, but prostitutes used to frequent there. and this prostitute woman, she let me stay in this house overnight. I remember thinking the next morning, God, just say that, a man had come in on me, but God, it seemed as though God was watching over me a lot, because that wasn't the first time I was going to run away. I ran away again. But this time I got on a train and went to a different city. I just had enough of my stepdad, of the way because I was conscious of the fact that what he'd been doing to me over time was impacting on my behavior at school. It was impacting on my mental health. It was just making me feel like just like as I said, I just sometimes I felt like I was just different to everyone else because of what was going on, and I was blaming myself in one respect, because I should have like stopped it. I should have, I thought this must be my fault, type of thing. Anyway, I ran away, and I the police for I came across the police walking along, and they said, "Where are you going? Do you know where you're going? And what are you doing out here this time of the night?" And I explained to them. So because of my age, they took me into the care of the social services, which is where they children go if there's problems. Anyway, the next day I remember my mum coming to collect me with my godmother, and I said I didn't want to go home. Um, and I'd even told the social services people about what had happened. And I mean, if it was nowadays, it they wouldn't have never let me go home. But there was a time where things like this were not really. Um, it's not to say it wasn't frowned upon, but it's like it wasn't really recognized as being what it is now. It's very much frowned upon now, to the point that anyone caught perpetrating that kind of behavior towards a child, it's instant arrest and conviction and whatever else. Anyway, as I was saying, um, uh, I got to about 18. I didn't want to be at home anymore, because I kind of just felt like my presence in the household was just like, if my at every given opportunity, my stepdad would um, be cussing after me, shouting at me, trying to get me into trouble with my mum, and I just didn't want to be around it anymore. I got a flat, and I became pregnant with my daughter. Um, and then I remember this one incident where, because I was experiencing depression after having my daughter, I went through a lot of depression. And so I said to my mum to keep my daughter with her for a little while, just while I got myself together. And my stepdad said something. I can't remember what he said, but it just really like aggravated me, and I got really angry. And I went into the kitchen and picked up the kitchen knife, and I was so wanting to do something to him with it, but my mum said, "No, don't do that. Stop, stop, stop." And my little girl was there in front of me, and I kind of thought, I thought about my mum, and I thought about my daughter, and that's what stopped me. Um, anyway, you know, over the years, it was just always just, I was close to my mum, although there were times when I hated her for a while. And when I say I hated her, I don't mean like full blown hate, but I resented her, because there was times when there was more than one occasion where I told her this was happening, and it was always just brushed under the carpet, as though it wasn't happening, or though as though what I was saying wasn't true or wasn't right. And I was thinking, like, I mean, what reason would I have to lie about that? I mean, all I wanted was to have a father figure in my life. My mum had always been, saying about how my dad left her, and then she started saying about how my real father had put obeah on her. Him and his cousin had, worked obeah on her, and they cast a spell on me. And she'd always, like, it was like a drumming into my head, that I was not cursed, but just saying, oh, the reason why your behavior is like this is because of what your dad did to me, and your dad and his cousin did to me. And I was like, part of me, like, I mean, I don't know, I've never really understood like witchcraft and how it works, and I kind of just like thought, nah, that can't be right. um so yeah, it was really hard, and it was really challenging. And over the years, going backwards and forwards, like, I was always close to my mum, because I felt like, because I was an only child, and because of how delicate I was emotionally because of what had happened to me, um I very much, stuck close to my mum. Although there were times when I um I rebelled and I was angry. There was one time I was so angry with my mum, I hit out her, I literally slapped her. And I mean, I've God forgive me, and I asked for God's forgiveness, but I just felt like, why? Like, why would you? In my mind, as I got older, I was thinking, like, if anyone ever did anything to my child, I would just, like, that person would even be alive, much less be around. I just couldn't understand that, like how you could do that. And I was your one child. Like, why would you want to stay with such a person? And the first thing that she had asked me, the time when I first approached her about the abuse, she said, "Him have sex with you?" I said no. I wasn't gonna lie and say that he did, because he didn't. Um, but it was almost like the fact that he hadn't. It kind of, it made it all right, which didn't sit right with me. And I grew up feeling quite angry with my mum, quite resentful, and thinking, like, you say that my dad worked obeah and cursed on you, but you've cursed me. How could you marry someone who would do things that were not right to your child, and then you still remain with that man? And even, times when I'd come out of the bathroom with just a towel around myself, you would say to me, a child, not an adult, not a woman, not a teenager, but a child, you say to me, "Go put on your clothes, and what you want to do? You want to take me man?" And I'm like, I just couldn't get that, like, how she would say that. um anyway, yeah, it just wasn't very nice.
One of the questions that the viewers are constantly asking is, why were you okay with allowing your daughter to go where your mom and your stepdad is, knowing what happened to you?
See, my mum, I very much, I think, because of the struggles I had with, um coping with parenting. um I relied very much upon my mum to, like, help me and to support me. I remember when I was pregnant, I had a difficult pregnancy, and I was staying with my mum throughout. I'd always said to my mum, um that I don't want him to have anything to do with taking care of my daughter. And I said to her, if he does anything, if he as much as touches a hair on her head out of place, I'll not let you see my daughter. But I felt like, in my heart, I felt like that's my mum's grandchild. Like, I would be, like, depriving her of her grandchild. And then, um I just, I mean, it was set up in such a way as, even when I would go to work, my mum had retired early, so she would take care of my daughter. I'd finish work, I'd come collect my daughter, and we'd either go home if it wasn't too late, or I'd stay sometimes. Um, but no, I kind of I can get why people would ask that question, because that was asked to me, and that's been asked to me so many times. But then the question that I asked myself is like, why didn't my mum get rid of him when he was doing all those things to me? But she didn't. So, like, I guess, as I say, I just, because I knew, I said to my mum, if he does anything to my daughter, to hurt her or whatever, I promised my mum she would never be able to have my daughter stay with her. And I mean, it's just difficult. I mean, like, what 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 person would want to keep their grandchild, their grandchild away from their parent? It wouldn't have been fair to my mum, although I obviously the safety aspect to my daughter. But it's quite weird because now, all these years later, my 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 daughter actually idolizes my stepdad, to the point where right now, currently, they're looking to buy a house, and looking to buy a house and have him move there with her. He's like 85 now, and suffering with vascular dementia, so he's in the early stages of it.
I have a question for
And
you. I have a question for you. Have you
mhm.
ever, over the years, questioned your daughter and asked her if anything like that ever happened to her? Or even better yet, knowing what happened to you, did you prepare your daughter for a world where something like that could happen to her?
I did. I remember always saying to her, I think I started saying it to her when she was about 5 years old. I said, if anybody ever touches you in a way that you're not sure of, you're scared, or you feel uncomfortable, you must tell me, or tell your dad, or tell an adult straight away. And because of what had happened with me with my stepfather, I was constantly just watching, just making sure. And I kept reminding my mum, if anything happens to my daughter, she won't see my daughter anymore. And she said he's not going to trouble her anyway. Thank God, to my knowledge, um he's never done that anything to her. Um but unfortunately, she experienced rape, which, when I found out what had happened, I it really just was so hard for me, because I felt guilty. I felt like if I'd been a different parent, if I hadn't gone through my own struggles, I could have, and I remember she heard for the first time us talking about it just a few weeks ago, and I said to her, I said, like, why didn't you tell me? And she said, you weren't around. You because I've been married a couple of times, and that was I was going through some difficulties in my first marriage. And she was saying, that she didn't want to tell my mum because the person was someone in my mum's church. And it was just, you know but yeah, it's quite upsetting to see the relationship that she has with my stepfather. She knows what I've been through, and there was a point where she was actually saying that I was lying. My own daughter, this is, because sadly, 7 years ago, my mum passed away, and it was shortly after my mum had died. I spoke to her about it, and she very coldly said, "Oh, that didn't happen, and you've told me this before already." Although now, because another family member who my mum had confided in, an older family member who's passed away now, And she said it in front of my cousin. My cousin said to my daughter, listen, I know for a fact that your mum's not lying, because when your mum and our auntie were talking, my auntie said, you know, that your mum was wrong for not believing what had happened. She said, like, why would you lie about such a thing when when nothing like that didn't happen? So it was just like, yeah. But I mean, Unstoppable, this abuse, although it wasn't actually sexual, I it had so many um repercussions on my life. I got diagnosed with a personality disorder, which is known as borderline personality, which is um, a mental health condition that you get as a result of being abused or going through trauma. Um, and it's just messed me up. Um, Becoming a Christian helped me to forgive my stepdad, but I just feel like at times I ask, like, God, if you're there, like, how is it that, he did that to me, and he ruined my childhood? How is it that my daughter's all around him? How is it that that he's not he's not being punished?
Now, the story didn't end there as usual. If you want to listen to the rest of what was shared, click the link in the description and it will take you on over to the live channel where you can participate and give your take, your views, your opinion on whatever topic we are streaming at the time. Now, as it relates to this specific topic, it is sad, and I say this all the time, that it is still happening at this very minute. There is a child right now that needs help and just don't know who to tell when things is happening. But one of the reasons why the kids are scared to talk about situations like these is because adults tend to not believe when they are told. And we need to stop that. If something is happening that you feel uncomfortable with, if something is happening that you think is not right, you can feel comfortable enough to come to me as an adult, as a parent, and talk to me. And even if you don't want to talk to me, find a teacher and tell a teacher. Just find some adult and let that adult know what is happening. Don't keep it inside. We need to start showing our kids that they can speak to us. And maybe, just maybe, we can start to eliminate the issue of child molestation. Until the next Unstoppable recap, stay strong, stay motivated, but most of all, remain unstoppable.
Unstoppable.